So I feel like the freeze that happened last year, we're really kind of trying to put it past us, and that's understandable. We don't really want to think about it too much because a lot of horrible things happened, and something like 800 people died. So that's a lot of baggage to process while we're still in the middle of a pandemic, and it's kind of unclear how much bandwidth we're supposed to have for dealing with environmental crises. But I have a new way of looking at it, and that is, I think that the freeze was the center of a disaster jelly donut. So the outside fluffy powdered cover part of the jelly donut was the other side of the quarantine. Now, if you can remember back last year at, I think it was Valentine's Day, the day after Valentine's Day is when it got really horribly cold. Before that, we were in the middle of scary version of quarantine. So we weren't really still washing all of the groceries that we brought home from the store, but we were afraid of the other shoppers. So we would be waiting to go into the store because you can't have too many people in there at once. And other people no longer really represented good things to us. They were like masked, and we avoided eye contact just as a part of a general strategy of keeping other people farther away. And our worlds kind of got smaller at that point. But it's a testament to how intense the freeze was that on the 15th, nobody remembered that we were in quarantine for the duration of that freeze. The slate was wiped clean. I don't think I saw anybody wearing a mask that entire time. And in my house, we were pretty much okay. Things got intense. We lost electricity, we lost gas, we lost water for 3 or 4 days. But we had supplies, and we just kind of shrunk. That containment got a little bit smaller, and we were just in our house, and we couldn't go to the store because we couldn't get the car out of the driveway because there was so much snow, which is kind of hard to understand now. But it was sweet in a way, and a lot of people have this reflection that a certain part of the freeze there was a sweetness to it, that concentration of family or of household. But that started to change for me when I started watching Facebook Live I wouldn't call them performances, but Facebook Live city council meetings and ERCOT meetings. And it struck me that these people don't really understand what's happening. They didn't understand what was happening in my neighborhood, and they didn't understand what was happening to all the other friends that I had on Facebook that were going down to their swimming pool in their apartment complex to get water so that they could flush their toilet. And I was hearing stories about apartment complexes where somebody on the 5th floor, their pipe would break, the units beneath them would become wet, they would be drenched, and then the following night they would freeze. And voila, instantly there's a dozen new homeless people. And homeless people were dying. So I started to get this really sick feeling in my stomach because I kept hearing all these stories on Facebook and absolutely no acknowledgement of any understanding, or much less of a plan or any kind of control from the government. And it started to make me ill and restless. So I realized I have some rudimentary plumbing knowledge, and I know some other friends that do as well. So we started going out and fixing people's pipes. And more people started asking for their pipes to be fixed, and we started to build a spreadsheet. And we started calling ourselves the Austin Guerrilla Plumber Corps. And we would just literally drive around town fixing people's pipes if we could and getting their water turned back on. And it was not always satisfying work. Sometimes it went awry. And I'm going to tell you about one of those times because it feels more important to acknowledge that for reasons that I'll get into. One day, me and my buddy Coleman were driving around the east side, and we had been working on a certain house. And before we went home, we wanted to check this one house out because it seemed particularly important. The landlord had said that the tenant was blind, and that seemed important. Like this is going to be hard for this guy to scavenge things. So we go over there, and we get out of the car, and it's actually a beautiful day. It's in the high 40s. This is a few days later. And everybody in Austin had adjusted to being pretty much like Norwegians. And when it got into the high 40s, we were like out in t-shirts. So this guy was hanging out on his front porch, and he had an unplugged electric bass that he was just sort of noodling around on. And we went up, and he was a really friendly guy. He said, okay, the sink, the leak's in the bathroom. I think it's under the sink. I don't know. So Coleman goes in there. I go back out to the city right-of-way, and I get into this manhole cover. And it's, you know what I'm talking about. It's not as big as a regular manhole cover, but it says City of Austin on it, or Austin Water or something. It's very substantial. It's cast iron. It's clear. It's not for you. Don't go in there. You're just a citizen. The state will take care of you. But like, that was off. So I was in that thing for 2 weeks straight at different houses. So I get my curb key in there, and I open it up just a crack, and I hear the hissing of water as it goes through the valve. And I hear Coleman inside going, off, off. So I close it, I run back inside, and in the bathroom, just at the corner, down at the bottom of the wall, at the floor, there's this bead of water that is starting to emerge, and we can't figure out where it's coming from because the pipes underneath the sink are just bone dry, the toilet is dry. It's just sort of manifesting there magically and running down and collecting against the bathtub. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it's got to be coming from the wall, but what if it's coming from the floor? I don't want to make a hole in the wall. And just as I'm thinking this, my friend Coleman, who is slightly more impulsive than me, takes a Phillips head screwdriver and starts stabbing the wall and makes a dotted line across it. I say, okay, fuck it, we're doing this. So I got my drywall saw, and I'm moving it in and out. I'm getting a pretty good line across the wall. It's not going to be too hard to repair. And I'm down here below the sink, and as I'm moving the saw across, I'm noticing the walls kind of wiggling a little bit, and it's clear to me that the drywall's not screwed into the studs. It's just sort of anchored at the sides. So it's wiggling more as I'm getting to the middle, and this doesn't seem to be a problem to me, but what I did not understand was that the mirror was balanced against the wall and was resting on the sink. So as I'm down there moving the saw across, Coleman is sort of crouched over, observing me in the universal construction observation position. And this mirror finally topples over and shatters across his back, and sending shards of glass everywhere in this blind man's bathroom and out the bathroom door in like a cone-shaped pattern. So we take a beat, and neither of us is cut, neither of us is even scratched. But our job has just changed because now we're trying to unfuck what we did. So I wish I'd been watching the signing for that one. So we refocus, and we start cleaning up the glass, and my buddy Michael, who had been out all day fixing stuff on his own, shows up with a big industrial vacuum cleaner, and that's very helpful, but it's extremely loud, and it's just this level of chaos in the bathroom. And meantime, the tenant, I couldn't tell if he was like pissed off or terrified, or if he was just going with the flow, but he changed the television from playing a talk show to like heavy industrial death metal and just cranked it way the fuck up. And just the level of chaos, it just ratcheted way up. And I was running on fumes. I hadn't eaten. I was on adrenaline, and I just loved it. It felt so right. It felt like we were in a garage band in the 90s in Austin, and the head tenant was like on bass, and we were on on destroying his house, which is extremely metal. So it took us a while, but we got it pretty well cleaned up, and we were ready to start plumbing again. And I find the pipe. The pipe's this vertical thing. It's coming up. It's taking a left to the sink, and I know that this is the problem because there's a hole in it, and the hole is pointed out, and it's obviously that was the problem. But the hole has some rust and some corrosion around it, and I'm thinking that's been there a while. This is not a freeze thing, and I'm wondering, like, this landlord that called me, he's getting some free plumbing done. That's what's going on. But I shoved this thought out of my head because it doesn't change anything for anybody who's in the house. Like this guy needs water. So we refocus, and We take the pipe apart, and it's a galvanized pipe. And I don't know if y'all are plumbing aficionados. I see you, sir. You're nodding your head. You know it's galvanized pipe. The plumbing is shot in the house. It's a wash. But anyway, we think we got to give it a try. So we find another piece of pipe that's the same length, and it's time for somebody to go under the house and screw this thing into the angle underneath. And I volunteered to do that because I actually really kind of like going into crawl spaces and attics. Like, I'm a small-time landlord myself. That's how I know how to do a bunch of repair stuff. And whenever I go into somebody else's space, it's incredibly distracting and somewhat stressful for me because there's just information about them just pinging me in the head constantly, and I just want to fix something and leave. And when I go into a crawl space, there's like interesting stuff down there. I'm interested in how houses are made, but there's nobody else there, so I can kind of relax. And also, my neck was tired from plumbing all day, and it was good to do some army crawling. So I get into this crawl space, and I got my headlamp on, and I army crawl over to the middle of the house where these pipes are coming down, and there's still a little bit of water dripping down from these pipes. And I find where the new pipe is coming in, and I get it into that angle, and it goes in just perfectly. There's no debris in there, there's no corrosion on it, and I get a nice, good, tight seal on it. So then I back out, and I'm going to sit at the end with my headlamp and watch for leaks as Michael and Coleman rebuild the sink, close the valve. Coleman's going to go outside and repressurize the system. And so I'm watching this drip, and I hear the pipes start to ring around my head. They're making that hissing, ringing noise. And it's going drip, 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 drip. And then Coleman opens up the valve completely, and the drip becomes a shower. And there's just water everywhere. And there's another shower over here, and another shower over here, and another shower over there. And in my headlamp, it just looks like diamonds everywhere. And we've made a water park. So this is defeat. There's no coming back from this. The house needs to be repiped. And we are not going to repipe it because we are not plumbers, really. And we don't have pipe. So that's it. That was the end of that day. And I thought a lot about like what the moral of this is, and I have I can just offer observations. And the first one is that it's complicated to help people. It's really complicated to help somebody that you live with and that you love and know. And then if you want to help your neighbor, that's a little more complicated. That's harder because you don't know the deal with them. As soon as you go outside of your own neighborhood, like, all bets are off. You need to be ready to change, to just abandon whatever plan that you had that you thought you were going to do when you got to that place, and just do whatever it is that you can. And I don't want to discourage anybody from helping people, but honestly, I don't think we're really very short on it. This is one of the biggest revelations to me of the freeze, was that we helped the shit out of each other during the freeze. We kicked ass. It was amazing. Everybody was helping everybody. There were organizations that were just opening themselves up that were normally like antagonistic to various communities. It was all off. And everybody was just incredible. It felt like our mutual opinions of each other just went up like 5 notches. After the freeze, we just all really realized that we were just an incredible community of people. But that is no substitution for a functioning government. And a functioning government is what we did not have before the freeze that we learned about. And we didn't have it during the freeze, certainly. And it's questionable as to whether we have it now, because those things are pretty much the way they were from before. And I felt like what I did, I felt like I was that lady who, I don't know if you've heard about this lady. She was internet famous for a while, but there was this movie theater. The movie wouldn't start. I think there was something wrong with the projector. And this lady gets up, comes to the front of the movie theater, and starts doing stand-up comedy. And some people thought it was really cool that somebody did that. And then some people were like, she's not very good, and that's not why I'm here. And I think it's important to appreciate that lady. But I also believe that all of those people should get their money back.